What's up, guys? My name is JC Kroupa, and this is Father Help Us, the show where only God knows what's next. Hey, guys, I lied to you last episode, and I said that we were going to do weekly episodes, and I quickly figured out that that's probably not doable, at least with my summer schedule. So if you guys don't know, taking a sales job in LA this summer. I'm actually in Denver right now in a hotel room. So that's why we have such a beautiful background right now. Um, and then after that, I'll be relocating most likely to Seattle here in the fall. And I'm super excited about all that. So I'm thinking more like in fall when I can kind of like build my own studio and have my whole flow and everything set up. Then we'll start going weekly. But for right now, we're going to stick to bi-weekly, even though I think it's been like 3 episodes since the last show. But all that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, share the show, share the podcast. It means a lot to me. So I just wrapped up 2 weeks in Milwaukee, and holy crap, there's a reason why I left that place. I personally don't think that you can really know who you are until you leave your hometown. Now, that doesn't mean you need to move away and never come back like me, but maybe going away to college for a little bit, or, you know, spending a year somewhere else, doing some traveling. I feel like most people need to do that. And being back home was great, seeing friends and family and catching up with, people I spent, almost 20 years of my life with. But dude, Milwaukee's depressing. All right. And anytime somebody talks crap about Milwaukee that's not from Milwaukee, like I get upset because it's from my hometown, but it does suck. It's great for 3 months out of the year, which is our very short summer. We have one of the biggest music festivals in the world called Summerfest, and it's so much fun. The lake is beautiful, Lake Michigan. It's a very clean city, the downtown area. They've done a lot to revitalize that area. But other than that, dude, like it's just great, like all the time. And I just got into a conversation about this with someone else, and they're like, "Well, you're trying to move to Seattle. Like, you should, you're gonna have to love the gray." And if it's gonna be gray for a reason, then I understand that. If it's gray because it's snowing or it's raining, like, dude, absolutely. Like, I actually don't mind it at that point. But if it's just gray just to be gray, like, I think I saw the sun once when I was back home, um, and it sucked. And the day I saw the sun, I asked my father to play football with me. Oh man, I mean that's a whole thing. I can never stay with my dad at my dad's house again because he's just unbearable. But I remember I asked my dad because there's this big field across the street from the house I grew up at, and whenever I'm in town, I usually just see my dad for like a day or two because I'm doing other stuff with friends and family. And so I really only get to see him like once or twice. I'm like, well, sick. I get to be here for a couple weeks, and I see the field across the street that we used to play on when I was a kid, where my dad and I used to throw football. So I'm like, oh, I got an idea. I'm going to ask my dad to, throw the football with me because it's going to be, nice out tomorrow. And so I'm sitting on the couch. My dad's, other side of the room on his little comforter or whatever, watching basketball or something. I'm like, yo, Dad. He's like, what's up, son? I'm like, would you want to throw the football around tomorrow? Like out of a movie. I'm like, oh, hey, Pops, you want to throw the pigskin around? Like legitimately, like out of a Disney movie. But I'm like, hey, Dad, would you want to throw the football tomorrow? And he gives me the craziest look. Like I just asked him if I could just have the house and kick him out of it. Like something like I said the most ridiculous thing to him. And he goes, huh? And immediately I feel insecure. And I'm like, well, like it's gonna be nice out tomorrow. It'd be fun to go and, throw the football around. He's like, it's probably gonna be muddy. There's probably a lot of dog poop over there. I'll let you know. I'm like, dang, my dad thinks I'm a loose. Dude. So then apparently I'm talking on the phone with my sister, Maya, my little sister. And she's like, you asked Dad to throw the football around? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what did he say? She's like, yeah. She's like, imitating his voice because he talks like this. He's like, he was like, yeah, I don't know why your brother asked me to throw the football around. Like, what the hell does he think this is? I'm like, dude, my dad is clowning me to other people. I'm that big of a loser. Holy frick. Um, so that's kind of a microcosm of how my entire stay with my dad was back in Wisconsin. So that's that. And I love my dad, but he is insane. And I'm glad to be on the road here in Denver, meeting up with a couple buddies tonight. And then I'll be back in Phoenix for a week, and I'll probably shoot a bunch of content in Phoenix because I'll probably still be getting adjusted to like my new routine when I'm selling in LA. So it'll be cool to build up a base. So I stop missing weeks to drop. But super excited. We have so much to talk about today. Um, it's funny. I was on TikTok and I saw a bunch of stuff about Galentine's Day. Obviously, it's March now, but we just got through, the whole Valentine's Day cycle. And I don't think guys have any days for us at all. Like, girl I was previously dating, I remember we had, you have Christmas. So obviously I'm buying, my girl gifts for Christmas. And then my birthday's a few days after Christmas. So then I'm spending money on, myself, usually a trip or something to treat myself. Cause that's the one day of the year that's about me, your boy. And then it's like New Year's. And, obviously we're doing something for New Year's. So I'm spending money on wherever we're going to have our New Year's Eve kiss. And then her birthday was like a couple weeks after New Year's. So then I got to figure stuff out for her birthday. And then a couple weeks after that, you had Valentine's Day. Dude, my life was financial hell, dude. But I remember she would always either organize or go to a Galentine's. And it wasn't just her. Like, I'm not picking on her. Like, other girls do this too. And I understand a Galentine's if you're single, right? Like, hey, like a day where, couples are celebrating, their unions together and they're posting each other online and they're doing all this cute stuff. Like, hey, let's get together with the girls and celebrate our love for each other and our friendship love. Like, that's cute. But here's the thing. You don't get a Galentine's Day if you already have a boyfriend. Dude, I remember I had to plan our Valentine's Day, stuff that I plan. I had to plan it all around her Galentine's event. Babe, you won. You have the boyfriend. You don't have to do this anymore. Oh my goodness, dude. So online, I was seeing all this stuff, girls celebrating Galentine's Day. And I know a few of the girls that I follow have boyfriends. And I'm like, what? So not only is it another holiday or weekend or whatever that I have to spend more money, but I don't even get the satisfaction of having the full weekend and being like, hey babe, I love you so much. Spending this money, I'm taking you here. I'm, sacrificing my time and resources to show you how much you mean to me. And believe me, it's not about the financial or resource aspect. I'm poking fun, but I do think you should honor someone you care about with, things that matter to you, right? It's more of just dude, we need to kill Valentine's Day. Maybe that's what I'm pointing out. There's just too many. I think Sweetest Day was a thing for a while too. That guys had to make special. Dude, I just want a boyfriend's day. I mean, I guess it's my birthday. But a day you see this with Father's Day too, right? People posting their single moms or single moms being like, I was both parents. It's Father's Day to me. You have Mother's Day, I don't know, man. I'm really trying not to turn this into an incel podcast because I love women. My mother was a woman. My mother was a woman, she transitioned. No, my mom's dead. So she's not a woman or a man. She's a spirit in heaven. And 3 of my sisters happen to be women too, Black women who want me to end up with Black woman as well. And I didn't plan on talking about this, but it's a really, I guess this kind of fits in with, because we're going to talk about Love is Blind 2 here in a second. Um, so I've dated all sorts of women in terms of like ethnicities, I mean backgrounds and personalities and whatnot too, like white women, black women, Hispanic women, Asian women, like, whatever it is. Um, I think my last 3 relationships have all been Latina women. So your boy, it's got a type. Man, keep Latina curvy woman away from me. But my big sister, and it was so cool to like go back home and catch up with my big sister. We hung out like 3 or 4 times, which we haven't done that since, I don't know if we've ever done that. Um, and it was cool to catch up with her. We did our Love is Blind kind of watch parties together. But my my big sister in particular, but my other sisters, they really want me to end up with a black woman. Now, I don't have anything against black women. My last girlfriend, she was like half Hispanic, but then she was like a quarter white and a quarter black. So technically, no, she was a black woman. Um, but this got into a conversation with me and my sister where when I was growing up, um, like I just like black girl. Like when I was like in middle school, early high school, like a little kid, I was like, oh, like all my crushes were on black girls, and you know these girls would find out I had a crush on them, but I was too whitewashed is the word they would use, or I was just too white. Like I was, you know, um, an inside out Oreo is what they called me. Um, and, so after a while, I get into high school and I'm like, these black women don't want anything to do with me. And, so eventually, I get to high school, go to college, and I start broadening, my dating horizons and dating, different kinds of women. And we could do a whole podcast about that, about my experiences with each ethnicity. Um, but and I've, dated black women in my adulthood as well. But it brought us to this conversation where I was very honest with my sister and I said, generally speaking, I don't like how black women treat their men. And this is very controversial to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about. And when I say that, people kind of get tense and they're not really like thinking about what I'm saying when I say that. Um, Again, generally speaking, there are exceptions to this, and I've met them, and they're amazing women. I love black women; they're beautiful. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up with a black woman one day. But for whatever reason, and not whatever reason, there are a bunch of different reasons. The way black women talk to their partners, in my experience, and the experiences of many of my friends, is borderline disrespectful, right? Um, and because of that, you see a lot of black men like myself and friends that I know gravitate towards other ethnicities, right? And some black guys I met, they're just like they don't find black women attractive, which I think if you're just like, I'm not into this ethnicity of people at all, that's kind of racist. You can have your preferences, but if you're like, I would never date a black man, I would never date a black woman, I would never date an Asian, like that's kind of sus, like, yeah. So you've seen enough Asians to know that that they're all unattractive. They're all ugly to you. That's crazy. Um, but they've gravitated towards other women, and this makes black women very upset. And black women watching this podcast are absolutely going to text and call me after this. And so there's been a lot of discourse and debate online as to why this is. And one thing, I think it's the respect thing. Like when I've dated other ethnicities, like let's use like white women as example, just because I think that's the stereotype. And obviously I've dated white women. When I get into an argument with a white girl that I'm dating, it's still an argument, right? Like we're not going to agree, choice words are being used. Um, But usually, like, that second time around, we're able to kinda, like, come to an agreement or some sort of solution. If you if let me use me, speak for myself. You get into an argument with a black woman, she's gonna call you out of your name, legitimately. You will think that you just ran over her cousin, the way she'll talk to you, right? Like, even at, when I've, spoken to black women out in public, like, try to get their number or talk them up, their thing is like, "Oh, so you think you cute or whatever," or, "Oh, you must be a hoe," you know? It's even in the way they flirt, it's like it's not soft and feminine and welcoming. And again, huge generalization. I know that not all black women are like this. I'm just saying a lot of them are. And, I'm telling my big sister this, and she's like, "They're not all that way. They're not all that way." And I'm like, "Yes, I know that they're not all that way. I'm just saying, generally speaking, for the most part, if I find a black woman beautiful or attractive, they're going to act in a way or deal in relationships in some way that is just not how I want to have a relationship." And some people like prefer that. Like, they like women that are more, aggressive and dominant. And that's not right or wrong. That's just my preference and the preference of a lot of black men who have decided to date outside of their ethnicity. And it's very interesting because I would say for the most part, people tend to like date and end up within their same kind of ethnicity. Um, like, for the most part, white people end up with white people, Asian people end up with Asian people. And so when you kind of cross these cultural divides and lines, things get a little tricky. And I think that's why we usually end up with people who are most like us in terms of how they look and where they come from. I remember dating a girl in college, white girl, and we are playing Quiplash, which is basically like apples to apples or Cards Against Humanity on a big TV screen. And so you can create like your own response to the prompt. And, it's a big group of us. And somebody put like the N word on the screen. And, the girl I was seeing, she said it in front of everybody. And I was like, "Hey, so and so, like, don't say that." And she was super confused and thrown off. And she said it again, and I ended up kicking her out. And we had another conversation where, she came over and we could just talk this through. And she said it like again in our conversation. So now it's like, I'm not okay with you saying the word, even if you think you're right. Like, now you're just trying to get a rise out of me at this point. And she said something to me that similar things have been said to me throughout my entire life, but I'll never forget it. She said, "I have friends who are blacker than you who said that I can say it." Now, this leads me to I don't want to say plight, but the experience of many biracial, light skinned, like mixed kids all across America. And it's something that I've talked extensively about, in my music. I've written a lot about it as well. But growing up, and it's a big part of how I found Jesus actually, but growing up, I never felt white enough for the white kids or black enough for the black kids. And so I was always searching my entire life to really find like who I was and where I belong, like my tribe, my people. And, when the black kids looked at me, they're like, "Okay, like he's kind of like light skinned, but like, he talks proper," is how they said it. And his dad looks like a Viking, so he's not really like us. And then when it came, white folks, they're like, "Okay, like, he's similar to us in some ways. He likes a lot of the same things that we do, but, I mean, his nose is bigger than ours and, his skin's darker and, his mom's black. So he's not like really like us." And so it was a battle internally for me to figure out like who I was for a really long time. And ultimately, like, I am a black man and, almost all of America, when they look at me, they say, "Oh, that's a black man," or a Samoan guy. Dude, sidebar. The amount of times people think I'm Samoan, I've had actual Samoans think I'm Samoan. I remember my, my sister was in town, for her birthday, like last year. And me and my, ex were on like a 6-month break at the time. And my sister was like, "Yo, let's go to the club." And I'm like, I hate the club. All right. If you know me, like I want to go to the bar, grab drinks with the boys, hang out, like talk to people, socialize. Like that's a good time to me. I don't want to be around a bunch of drug people trying to sleep around, bumping into you. You can't hear what anyone's saying. Like it's just doesn't sit right in my spirit. If it's cool for you, do it, man. But not for me. But it was her birthday. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take you to, whatever nasty bars in Old Town Scottsdale. So we're sitting there. I bump into a buddy who's a promoter. We go up on the table. I'm standing on the table, and there's this girl and her friend who are like right next to me. Cause now my sister's like off in dudes' faces, like doing her thing. And I'm just, there supervising, honestly, at that point. I was sitting there like, nodding, dancing a little bit. And this chick, she keeps looking on over. She's like, you know, making glances at me. And I'm just like not paying her any mind. Cause like, I think it'd been maybe only a month or two since my ex and I had broken up the first time. So I'm really not there trying to talk to anybody. And she looks at me and goes, "So what island are you from?" Dude, I laughed so hard, dude. And I said, "Guess." And she said, whatever island she said. And I'm like, "Nah, I'm just black." So it happens all the time. But anyway, back to the original thing I was talking about. So I'm a black man. And so that's how I identify. Like have experienced a lot of the same things that many black people have. Like I've been pulled over and for a broken taillight, bring it in the garage, taillight works fine. Like talk to a certain way about, or by law enforcement that, my other friends are not spoken to. Like growing up, like on the playground, like I saw, parents whisper things to their white children, and all of a sudden, like we weren't playing together on the playground anymore. Like a billion things over the course of my life that, white people, for the most part, don't have to go through. And so it makes me angry when I watch Love is Blind and I see a character like Devontae. Now, Love is Blind is my favorite show. And if you have not seen it, please do yourself a favor and start at season 1. And it is amazing. Even the bad seasons are good. And I find so much enjoyment watching the show. So if you've never seen the show, essentially a bunch of people in their mid 20s to like early 30s come together and they do what they call a social experiment. And they start dating people blindly. Like they're in pods and the other person's voice comes through like on an intercom. And so over the span of maybe, I think it's a week or two, they're going on all these dates. They're whittling it down to like maybe 1 or 2 people. And at the end of, the deadline, these people, they fall in love and they ask the other person to marry them without ever seeing them. So they get engaged. They have a fiance without ever seeing what the fiance looks like. It's absolutely bonkers, dude. And it's the best show of all time. And so what ends up happening is there's this big reveal where they get to see the person that they're in love with for the first time. Crazy. And everything's basically in reverse order. Then they go on this big honeymoon to Mexico where they try to match up their emotional connection and create a physical connection. And then after that, they go like back into the real world where, they get to see like other people that maybe they talk to in the pods. They figure out, how are we going to fit in each other's work schedule? What are our finances going to look like? How much debt do you have? They're meeting family members, friends, things like that. And ultimately it culminates in the wedding. And so they go to an altar and it's a legally binding marriage. And they get married at the end of the show if they want to. Obviously, some people don't. And it's insane. Now, we'll probably go in more detail on the next pod when the reunion comes out because I have so many thoughts. But I want to kind of zoom in on 2 couples today. The first couple is Devontae and Brittany. Okay. So Devontae is biracial, right? Kind of like reddish beard, but like very obviously black. Light-skinned guy. I wouldn't say he's out of shape. He's like a bigger, like husky guy. Like he obviously doesn't work out, but I wouldn't say he's fat necessarily. He's just like a big husky kind of like, you know, if he went to the gym, he could probably be like freaking really good looking and really attractive, but he doesn't. So he's like, he's fine. Devontae makes a ton of money, and Devontae in the pods meets this woman named Brittany. Now, Brittany is the most beautiful woman they have ever had on the show. Like, legitimately, it's actually bonkers, dude. And she is a little Colombian chick, and she's super sweet. And so they're all about each other in the pods. And then they get together, you know, at the reveal, everything's great. And then you start to see when they're on their honeymoon, um, that Devontae clearly is not as into this relationship as Brittany is. And when I say it sends me to the moon, my blood is boiling, literally just talking about this. Like the entire honeymoon, Brittany's like, hey, like, I want you to like, you know, be affectionate and tell me that you love me and tell me that you think I'm pretty. And like, oh, she's really not asking for a lot. And Devontae's just like not giving her anything at all. And he's like, yeah, Brittany's not my normal type. Like he only dates white woman, apparently. Um, and here's the thing, man. You're going on a show where you're not going to see what the person looks like, but you're going to fall in love with them and you're going to ask them to marry you in the pods. Now, hot take, but if you cannot be physically attractive to the person that you selected, I think that's okay. And you should be honest with that person. Now, on the other hand, you should at least try because you owe that to that person because they're literally your fiance. You just literally love bomb the hell out of them. You're picturing their life together. Like they're on dates for hours and hours, like in these pods. And then you ask that person to marry you. Literally like, yeah, we're together. You're fiance. Let's go get married. You have to try, even if you don't find the other person attractive, right? That doesn't mean like sleep with them or anything like that, but like try. And Devontae seemed checked out from the jump, dude. And it was so sad to see because even Brittany said like Devontae wasn't her normal type, but she's like trying. And she tried so much to the fact that she was like in the relationship. Like she wanted to get married to this guy. And Devontae's sitting here talking about like a prenup. And Brittany's like, do you freaking love me? And Devontae's like, hmm. And then Devontae says, he said something on the show, which brings us to what we're talking about before, which was something to the effect of, I'm not a colored person or something like that. Hey, yes, you are. Because that's essentially me saying I'm not a colored person. And I am absolutely a colored person. You see me, you're like, that's not a white guy. You see Devontae, that's not a white guy. Like you're obviously at least mixed with something. You're not white, dude. And this guy is this man believes so much that he's white, and it's bleeding into how he interacts with his woman and his relationship. And it was such a brutal watch. And they didn't even make it to the altar. They have this meeting the day of the weddings. And yeah, here's the thing. Like, I don't beat around the bush, bro. Like, just be honest with the person and say, hey, like, I love and care about you a lot, and I want to marry you so much, but I don't think like this physical connection is going to get better. And while I don't think it's the most important thing, like it is important for me. And I can't move forward. Like it's tough to hear, but Devontae does like the complete opposite. And so many people do the complete opposite on the show. And so many people do the same thing in life, man. Be honest. A lot of you guys are watching and listening to this podcast, wondering why you're still single and why dates don't work out. It's because you're not honest. I just gave my sister dating advice, least qualified guy to do it. But she's like, I feel like nothing's working out, da da da. And I'm like, you're not setting the expectations for these guys at all. Like these guys are gonna do and what they want with you and play with you however they want. Because one, like, you know, don't give it up first night. Not saying she is, but I'm saying like in general, like a lot of women do. Do not give it up first night because the guy's he's got what he's wanted, what he wants. And two, you need to be clear about your intentions on the first date. And this whole bullcrap TikTok culture thing where, you know, you're waiting for the guy to do and say everything. Like it's so bullcrap, dude. Like stop playing these weird games. Say what you want. And if the guy is not down for what you want, then okay, cool. Like, you don't waste his time. He doesn't waste your time. It's on in the next one. Like, imagine how I'm talking to the ladies here. Like, imagine on the first date, like, hey, like, you know, I'm not in a hurry to get in a relationship or anything like that, but like I do want to let you know that I date with intention, the intention to marry. So if I end up, making somebody my boyfriend, it's because I want them to eventually be my husband. And I'm not into like the casual sex thing or anything like that. Um, so I'm just gonna be looking for you to be really intentional. And also like by the end of the date, if you don't see it going in that direction or at any time along this process, I just ask that you would be respectful of me and let me know and there won't be any hard feelings. Like, maybe my feelings would be hurt a little bit, but I'd rather you be honest with me than, drag out something and you waste my time and I waste your time. Dude, your relationships would change drastically, dude. Like I remember my ex-girlfriend that I, just dated for a couple of years, like date one, we essentially did that. And I had a very successful relationship with her. And, that's the thing too, where we think just because relationships end, that they were a waste of time or that they were bad. And that's not true, dude. And I had a beautiful, amazing relationship with a beautiful, amazing woman. And I think a lot of it was because we just didn't play games. And right from the jump, like, she's like, I want to see you tomorrow. And I'm like, bet. Um, and we ended up hanging out like every other day for like a month straight. So I was like, okay, we've been on like 11 dates at this point. I got to make this girl my girlfriend. And I ended up dating for 2 years. But one, you have to love yourself. Well, one, you have to love God. And then you can truly love yourself. And then you can love other people. And then you have to figure out what you want because you can love a lot of people. You can fall in love with a lot of people. But are they going to push you towards your purpose? Not just make you happy, but are they going to push you towards your purpose? And a lot of you are listening to this podcast right now and you're saying, purpose? What do you mean by purpose? That's the point. You need to know why you're here on this planet before you bring somebody into your life. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago where I think so many Christians, they think salvation is just not going to hell and going to heaven. And obviously that's a part of it. But like salvation is more than that. Like Jesus should make your life more valuable and more important and bring beauty to it. And like my purpose, I know this for a fact, on this earth is to preach and share the gospel. Now, for the longest time, I thought that would be best expressed through being a pastor. It still might be. I just don't know if it is anymore. But I know through some medium in some way, like that's my purpose and that's why I'm on this planet. And you have to figure out what your purpose is. Now, for every Christian, your calling is to share the gospel. It's a little different for me because, God's gifted me in certain ways where like that's my thing. But when I say your purpose, what has God set you here to do? What vision has he given you over your life? And then you bring that into your relationship with this person and everything becomes a lot more clear. Like so many of my female friends that I talk to, like they're sitting here waiting for like this guy to like explain, hopes and dreams and plans and visions to them, which you should absolutely if you guys are in an actual relationship. But also like ladies, like what sort of visions and plans and dreams do you have? Like, what do you want to do? Like, that's important. Obviously, in a relationship, you're going to have to compromise, right? Because it's a different person or, different person. But like, how do you envision it going? And what parts of that dream and vision are you willing to kind of like bend to bring that person into your life? So here's the other thing too about this show is almost every time somebody has an issue with how someone else looks on the show, the person who has an issue is usually ugly. Like it doesn't make any sense at all, but that's just how it is. Uh, little getting over a little cough right now, so excuse me, guys. But it's like, dude, there's this other guy on the show named I think his name's Connor, and he ends up like breaking up with really pretty like little white girl, and because he's like not attracted to her, which I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but it's like he's trying to like push this woman to go to the gym which fair. But you would think this guy looks like Channing Tatum. And this guy looks like a Caucasian squirrel, like legitimately. Like these guys or girls or whoever who are pushing their partner to like go to the gym or aren't attracted to them and talking about how unattractive these people are almost always hideous, dude. It doesn't make any sense to me. The other couple I wanted to talk about is Alex and Ashley. Now I met Alex, who apparently is known as Alec, at a bar before, very briefly, and seemed like a cool guy and talked for a little bit. And he is definitely I can relate to this guy a little bit. Now, bear with me, okay? How he carries himself on this show and how he carries himself as a part. It comes off very superficial, right? Like I think the lies that everybody is talking about on the show, like they're asking for very like specific things that happened years ago. And okay, let me give you an example, right? If somebody asks me right now if I have a job, I'd say yes. Technically, I don't because I am contracted to a company. I'm starting here in a couple weeks to seasonally do sales for them in the summer. But right now, I'm not working. I'm not getting a paycheck. So I don't have a job, but I do. So I kind of get where this guy's coming from with all the travel and everything that he's been doing. And I lived a very nomadic life like that for a really long time too, where I worked seasonally. I did a ton of odd jobs. I did a ton of sales jobs, kind of headed into that era in my life right now. Like if somebody were to ask me, where do you live? I might say Phoenix, but I don't live in Phoenix. I'm literally in a hotel room in Denver, Colorado right now. I was just in Milwaukee for, 2 weeks back home. I'll be in Phoenix for a few days and then I'll be in LA all summer. And then I'm going to move to Seattle in the fall. I'll probably settle around Tacoma area, probably if I had to guess. But like, who knows for sure? Like tomorrow's not promised to us. So I kind of get it in that respect, but some other things too, like everything is just too well thought out and well put together where this guy is very much trying to put on a show. And then you have this girl, Ashley. And so Alex is not very attracted to Ashley. Ashley's not ugly. She's just kind of like a vanilla, like white girl, like blonde hair, blue eyes. Like she's pretty. He actually says to Brittany, and I don't know why they do this on the show, but he says she's more my type. I mean, Brittany should be everybody's type. But, but Alex actually tries, right? Like they end up, sleeping together. Like he's trying to be there for her. And Ashley, for the most part, is really into the relationship too. And, she admits too that, she's had a very comfortable life. Like her dad was, I think, a lawyer because he ends up like cross-examining Alex. And it's like the most amazing 2-minute interview of all time because he's just rapid fire hitting Alex with all these questions. And Alex like holds up pretty well. So I don't, he's definitely like lying or stretching the truth about quite a few things, but the way people are reacting to it online, like I don't get it. And we'll see what happens in the reunion. But apparently I learned doing my investigative research that Alex came to Ashley the day before and they had a brief conversation and Alex was like, hey, like physically, I just can't get there. And like, I really don't want to blindside you on the wedding day because the producers really like pressure the people to like finish at the altar because it's good for the show. So Alex gives, Ash the courtesy to his fiance, like, hey, it's going to be a no for me. I don't want you to just like sit there and caught off guard. And so then their wedding comes and they ask Alex what his answer is. And Ashley interrupts Alex and tries to give a Deep D speech, which Deep D was a contestant from season 2 who dealt with the worst fiance I've ever seen on the show. Like he constantly put her and her body down. And it was an incredible moment on the show where she was like, I'm choosing me. And Ashley basically tries to do the same thing, except Ashley I get the sense that there's not a lot of depth to her, and so it's a very, like, rehearsed, thought out speech, and when you think it ends, she keeps going, and Alex is just kinda, like, sitting there taking it, like, kinda, like, letting her have her moment, and, yeah, it was really, really weird, and I don't really like any of these people, except Brittany. There's a couple really, cool guys on the show. I think, I can't remember if it was Connor or Chris. He's really cool. It was a pretty good season, and I'm sure we'll get into much more detail when the reunion comes out. But Love Is Blind, man. Um, Speaking of watching things, I just watched Interstellar for the first time a couple weeks ago. Um, and it was overwhelmingly fine. When I say that, okay, people talk about Interstellar like it's one of the greatest movies ever created. And it was a good movie. Like I enjoyed it. I liked it, but the pacing is off. Um, Details of the plot are still not absolutely clear to me. And everyone in the comments is going to say like, "Oh, it's because you didn't understand it." No, I understand it. All right. I just read Project Hail Mary, the Andy Weir book that's becoming a movie, and that was way more difficult to understand in terms of like the hard science that they're laying down in that book. Um, but here, here's my biggest gripe with the movie. I guess not biggest, but like the thing that bugs me the most. This guy did not care about his son at all. Matthew McConaughey's character is portrayed to love his kids, and he really loves his daughter. I'm blanking on her name right now. She's got like some dude name or whatever as a nickname. And so he leaves to go on this mission for the sake of humanity because humanity's essentially like dying. And he's going to be gone for like years and years. He could be possibly gone for like decades and decades, but he's going to try to make it as small as he can, the time that he's gone. Which, first off, no, don't do that. So your kids grow up. Second off, they were never clear on like what his family would receive. Like I was imagining like, hey, this is going to be your salary. Like we're going to take good care of your family. They're going to get into the best schools. They're going to have the best food. Like, and his son just like stays in this ratchet farm that they grew up in. And so Matthew McConaughey's character is like, oh, I got to get back to my daughter. I got to get back to my daughter. Like, I'm sorry to my daughter. It's like, bro, you have a son too, played by Timothy Chalamet. And, you would almost forget that he's in the movie. And it's really weird because he cares so much about his daughter, doesn't give a damn about his son. Other than that, like Matt Damon makes an appearance in the movie and, ends up being a jerk. And Anne Hathaway was fine in the movie. And then, you see him come back at the end and his daughter's like an old woman, like on the brink of death. And then his whole family is like there that he's never met. And you would think like his whole family would be clamoring over the fact that, he came back and they can all meet him, but no, it's really weird. And then she like tells him to go so she can say goodbye to her family. It's like, dude, it's his family. It's really weird. And then, it's implied that Matthew McConaughey is going to pick up Anne Hathaway's character at the end of this movie. And we just never see that. Like there's no sort of, like it's not satisfying at all, I guess. And yeah, it was fine. Like the visuals were great. The acting was really good, especially on Matthew McConaughey's part. It was very, very decent. And I don't know if I'd ever watch it again because it was a really long movie, but Interstellar it was like a first date. It was fine. You got to do it. You got to get it over with. And now, you know what you're rocking with. I was actually asked recently, by a couple of my female friends. They actually they do a podcast that, I'm gonna be on pretty soon, and I actually might have one of them come on, the show here pretty soon. And so they were asking, like, what's my go-to first date, which got me thinking. I'm like, "Do I have a go-to first date?" And I absolutely do. So here's the thing, and you can steal my sauce, if you guys want, because I think it's brilliant and genius. That's why I do it. So you always take the girl, fellas, to a nice place, but not top of the line, right? Because you want her to see that you put effort into the date, but you can't start the bar too high, otherwise it's all downhill from there, right? Um, it's not about the money anyway, but you want her to see, like, you're not afraid to, spend money on her. And so I always take on like a serious first date. You always take her out to dinner for food, because then there you can have a few drinks, like you're literally just talking the whole time. And if it's difficult to like talk and carry a conversation, then it's probably not the one for you, dog. And then there's a second part of the date that I always give them an out on, because then if they take me out, then I know that they're not interested. And I say, hey, like, would you want to go grab drinks at, this bar down the road or whatever? And, she says, oh no, like I got to go do so and so, 9 times out of 10, she's just not that into you, dude. But if she says yes, then you're like, okay, cool. She's interested. She wants to keep hanging out with me. And then you take her for drinks. The other utility of that is that ordering drinks at a restaurant is way more expensive than ordering drinks at the bar. But so you go, you talk more. She loosens up because she's had a couple drinks, and you could probably get more out of her and figure out, okay, like, is this somebody that I'm actually into? So that's my go-to first date: dinner and then drinks after. Um, and then second date, like I try to do something, a bit more interactive. I like cooking too. Like I think like the second or third date, depending upon how well the first one goes, is, I like inviting the girl over and like, hey, like I made this meal for you. Like not only am I interesting in conversation, but I'm, a skilled human being, and this is my place, and I take care of it, and it's clean, and this is yet who I am as a person. Welcome into my space, kind of a thing. Um, so I, I don't know, like going to the movies obviously is a terrible first date because you're not talking. I mean, the best case scenario by the end of it, like you put, your hand, around her, which is, fine, do that. Um, dude, I had a buddy tell me about, a date he did, which was a sick date idea, and I'm absolutely stealing. And, I think it's just because he was like in between jobs, but he really wanted to take this girl out. And he told me, he was like, I took this girl on a Polaroid date. And I'm like, dude, what is a Polaroid date? He's like, it's exactly what it sounds like. I got a Polaroid camera, and we went around the park, we drove around the city, and we just took a bunch of Polaroids. And then by the end of this date, we had like, 30 Polaroids of us doing cute stuff all around the city. And we got to talk the whole time and laugh, and it was amazing. And I told him, that's amazing. I'm going to steal it. So you guys steal that too. That's probably the most creative thing I've heard. Um, I don't know. People like to like poo poo on dinner. Like some people like doing the interactive stuff. Axe throwing is always really fun. I just think interactive stuff is for, a couple dates down the road. Like why am I sweating rock climbing on date number one? Like what is functional athleticism that important to you? I guess it should be. Like there should be some sort of athleticism, especially on a man's part. Like your man should be able to defend you. I'm not saying he has to be some big hunking guy with huge muscles and, be in Muay Thai and all these things. But I think it should be every man's goal to become physically imposing so that he can, protect his family and the woman that he cares about. And it's so funny because if I think about all the women that I've dated, how many of them could catch a football pass from me? I don't know if a single one could. And me and my buddy were talking about this the other day on FaceTime, and I was like, yo, do you think, cause he's divorced. I'm like, you think your ex-wife could catch a football you threw? He's like, yeah. I'm like, thinking about it. He's like, do you think, your ex could? I'm like, absolutely not. Um, and obviously it's not as important to guys. Um, what I thought was so funny too was that trend where boyfriends and girlfriends were like running, and it shows like the girl running, and it's like the worst, most disgusting run you've ever seen in your life. And then either the guy does it next, or like he gives the girl a head start, like catches her, and just the form's different, the speed is completely different, and it makes you think like, do women just like give up on athletic training? And when I say athletic training, I don't mean like going to the gym and lifting, right? Like that's training for aesthetics. Like most women, I would say, train to, have bigger legs, a bigger butt, tighter abs, tighter core, lose weight, things like that, which are all important things and healthy things. But in terms of like athletic training, like women listening to this podcast right now, like how many push-ups can you do? Be honest with me. And that's like functional train. Like, could you pull yourself up if you're hanging off a cliff? Not that you're going to be in that scenario every day, but could you do a pull up? Um, can you run away from an attacker? Like things that functionally in everyday life are useful. Like doing a squat. Um, I won't say it's not functional or useful in everyday life, but a lot of like the exercises that we do at the gym, and I do this too because I want to look good, are not really functional for training. So something I've started to do in my mid-20s is, I guess, late 20s too. Oh my gosh, your boy's knocking on the door of 30. So much deeper, but something that I've started to do is a lot more functional training. So I will purposely lift incorrectly, but use a lot lighter weight, because that's the muscles that you pull as you get older aren't like, they're not the muscles you're working on a bench press or on the squat rack, or on the ab machine or whatever. It's like leaning over and picking something up too heavy. So something that's big for me are like I can't remember if they're called RDLs or good mornings. I do so many lifts and I don't know what they're called. Where I literally put a barbell like over my back and I just bend over, come up, bend over, come up. And it has made my back and core strength so much better. It's eliminated a lot of the back pain that I suffered with since I was young. Something I'll do too is I'll grab a really heavy weight and I'll just lean over to the right, lean over to the right, lean over to the right, and then I'll do it to the left. And that has strengthened my core so much. Farmer walks might be, if not the best lift you can do. It's got to be like top 5 at most, probably top 3. Because when you do a farmer walk, which, is just, a couple heavy dumbbells in your hands, you're just walking, you're working, your arms because you have heavy weights in your hand. You're working your legs because you're actually walking. You're working a ton of your core and your shoulders because you have to stabilize the weight. And then a lot of like other muscles around your body that you normally don't work because your body uses so many different muscles just walking. And so when you put a massive amount of weight on your body when you're walking, like that is directly, um, responsible and shows up in other things in your life, right? Like I went to Mexico in January, I actually officiated my baby sister and Jame's wedding. It was so much fun. And my dad, like he couldn't walk around, like walking more than 100 feet. Like, he was constantly like waving down, um, tour guides and things like that to give him a ride, like back to the room or to the resort. And I'm like, dude, like we're just walking, man. And so many people just like give up on their bodies. And my dad has always struggled with his weight. Like I have too, and my sisters have as well. Um, and there are times where, he's going to the gym constantly. He's not right now. And, it makes me really concerned about him, but he doesn't listen to anyone. And I think a lot of us do that too. Like something I'm so annoyed of hearing is I want to be a young dad so I can play with my kids. Dude, I want to be able to play and throw the football around with my grandkids. That's my goal. Like, because when I think about having kids, like I'm 28 now. Let's say, I get married at 30. Um, I want to start having kids maybe 33, 34. So I guess I'd wrap up in my late 30s. Just because I want to enjoy time with my wife and hanging out with my wife. And who knows, like maybe we'll have them sooner because she wants to have 'em, a lot sooner. But even if I started having them at 30, 31, um, I'm damn near 50 by the time, they're 18. And I just, it's like, how are you baking into the equation that you're going to lose mobility and strength and you're okay with that? I have never understood that. Like, I've decided a long time ago, like, that I will always be in shape my entire life. Now, that doesn't mean like, I'm going to have, six pack and be able to jump out the gym and things like that. But when I'm 85, dude, like, I want to be able to like bend over, pause. And, I want to be able to like, crouch down and grab something and, go on a jog and, throw the football around with the grandkids and, um, be able to walk around and not be out of breath. And, you know, and you don't have to lift a truck at the gym to achieve that, but you do have to regularly be consistent about prioritizing your body. Dude, like something that kills me, dude, is like these pastors who are out of shape, man. Because I remember as a kid, like them using um that Bible verse that talks about how our bodies are temples in the New Testament, which is absolutely true. But it would always be try to like in the Pentecostal church shifted to be like, oh, don't get tattoos, which is not a biblical argument at all, which it's totally fine to get tattoos most of the time. Um, but the same guys who were preaching that message were like 300 pounds. You're sitting here telling me my body's a temple and you eat McDonald's every day. You don't cook. You don't go to the gym. You might run out of breath by the time you get to your car. Like it's actually insane to me. And so many people are like that, dude. Like when I get married, like I want my wife to be like, dang, I feel like I'm dating a celebrity. Not just like in physically how I look, but like how I carry myself, like my drive, my motivation. Um, like I don't want her sitting there like blazing some celebrity crush, which celebrity crushes in relationships are super weird. I will die on that hill. Like, what do you mean you're married and you guys were talking about how hot Channing Tatum is? Like, that's weird, bro. Because essentially what you're implying is in a different scenario, if I had access to that man, I would be with him instead of you. And so essentially you're just saying you're settling because this is what you can get. That's weird. And I don't want to settle. And I don't want my wife to feel like she's settling for me. But so many people give up on themselves. And this is a reoccurring thing that we've been talking about on this podcast for a really long time. But dude, like it's March and a lot of you guys have given up on your New Year's resolutions. Like it's not too late, man. I've had this business idea in my head for a really long time and I've just been in such a creative mindset the past couple months. And I'm just so grateful to God that he's put me there. Like I'm creating beautiful music. I feel like I'm free to go and do what I want. I've been writing again. I got a couple books I'm working on. And then there's this business. I don't want to give too much away that, I feel really led to start and launch this year. And I'm super excited about it. And there's a difference between giving up on yourself and being realistic, right? Like, I don't know if I'll ever make it big and famous with my music. I think it's good enough. I think I'm good enough. But, 28 hasn't popped off yet. So you got to start thinking realistically, But at the same time, like, I'm never going to give up on music. Also, here's the thing. It's not important to me that my music charts. Like, I think that would be really cool. I'm trying to do that, especially with all the work that I'm putting in this album. It's going to be a lot more pop. but that's not important to me. And the things that we find important are most of the time really not that important. And so how do we figure out and ask God to like change our lives and our minds and our hearts to prioritize the things that are actually important? And it takes a lot of really painful deconstruction. The book I recommend to everybody is Scary Close by Donald Miller. It absolutely changed my life. So definitely pick it up if you haven't. But so many times we're putting on a face for other people and trying to act a certain way for other people and, checking off check marks on this Excel sheet that we've created to impress other people. And if I learned anything from my mom's funeral, it's that most of the people who think or who you think that care about you don't care about you to the degree that you think. And that's okay. But it means that you need to live your life in a way that exemplifies who you are and what you want out of it. And it's hard. But Father, help us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you go follow the Instagram page at Father Help Us Podcast. Yeah, we're back bi-weekly. Sorry, it's just been crazy with traveling and everything. And my producer's been traveling too, and it's been nuts. But yeah, next time you guys get an episode, I will be in LA. So pray for me, wish me luck. I love you guys. Peace.